Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come experience the beauty that awaits in Scotland. The sweep of wild coastlines, quiet lochs, and untamed landscapes. Fresh cuisine that feels rooted in the land. Come experience the kind of stillness that stays with you long after you leave. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
LinkedIn is pretty amazing at helping you grow your small business. We cannot stop your new clients from emailing you at 3 a.m. We can help you sell, market, and hire in one place. We cannot help you be in 3 places at once. And while we can't help you organize your calendar, LinkedIn can help you land more clients so you have a calendar to organize. Grow your small business on LinkedIn. Learn more at linkedin.com/smallbusiness.
Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here. This is a hypnosis session all about resilience and re-evaluation, both very important things. Resilience is the, let's say, emotional capacity to deal with difficult things. Life is easy if it's easy. If every day, things are not challenging, you get what you want, people are nice to you, no difficulties, no problems, it's fairly easy to feel resourceful because there's not many challenges going on. When you really need resilience is that when things are challenging, and that might be financially challenging or career challenging or relationship challenging, or you might have a health scare, that's when you really need resilience. And this client I was working with was going through difficulties in their marriage, but also in their business. And the rapids that you're going to hear in this metaphor represent the challenging period. The second part of this session is about reevaluation. Now, one of my favorite questions is the question, knowing everything that I now know, would I still choose to do what I'm doing now? And why it's such a good question is it gives you permission to reevaluate based on how things are, not how they were at a different point in time. And the client that I was working with was in a marriage that at one point clearly was very, very desirable. They were absolutely committed to that marriage. They wanted it more than anything else. And it was the right decision for them to make at that point in time. But sometimes things can happen in a relationship where people hold on to things that can make them bitter or resentful or angry or hurt. And that can change power dynamics. And what could be a wonderful relationship at one point in time could be a very toxic relationship at a different point in time. And this client had reevaluated variables in their business, and they were making decisions based on how the actual economy is and things like interest rates. They were making real decisions based on real variables. And what was a great decision at one point to buy property can be a horrible decision if the economy changes. But they weren't having that same thought process connected to their relationship. And what this does is it positions a difficult conversation that they needed to have not as a daunting thing that they needed to be apologetic or sneaky about, but actually as a win-win outcome. Because either it would give them a clue that something positive was possible within their relationship, that they could restore it to its former glory, or it would give them confirmation that something had changed so much in their relationship that it wasn't a relationship that they would actually want anymore. I'm a big believer that if you're in a relationship and things are going through difficult times, that you mend it, you don't end it. But I'm an equal believer that if you can't mend it, you need to end it, because not ending it means that you're settling for something that is no longer something you would want. And that's why it doesn't make sense, because then resentment can build. There can be feelings of disinterest or annoyance and all these kind of horrible things. For a relationship to be a truly great relationship, both parties, knowing everything that they now know, would still want that relationship. And that doesn't mean that the original things were in the relationship are still there. It might be replaced by something else that's even better. But there has to be something in the relationship in its current form that makes it desirable so that you want it. And unfortunately, there is a cultural thing where tenure is rewarded irrespective of the quality. And I've worked with people that have been in relationships for 30, 40, 50 years, and that's become a badge of honor, even though the relationship itself might be abusive or toxic, and have horrible things going on. There is some pride in the length of that relationship. And I would say that can become a trap, something called the sunk cost fallacy, that because you've done something for so long, you have to stick with it. And that's why that question of knowing everything that I now know, would I still choose to make this decision, is such a powerful question. Now, the beta paradox part that you've probably seen in the title refers to this theory that sometimes something has to get worse in order for it to get better. And you'll hear a couple of metaphors and analogies actually in this. It can be a gift for something to be so much worse than it was before if it leads to a catalyst of change, in which case, just imagine, there wasn't a betrayal in this relationship, but imagine that you're in a relationship and it's an okay relationship. You don't think it's the best relationship, but you're settling with it. And then suddenly that person lies or cheats on you and you discover that. That would be emotionally painful to begin with. But if that is the very catalyst that you need to then end that relationship and find a better relationship, the region beta paradox is that in order for things to get better, it had to get worse, but the getting worse is actually a gift. So there's a bit going on in this session, and hopefully if you resonate with any of those things, you'll get some value from it. And if you like the idea of working with me directly rather than just listening to recordings, in the show notes, in the description of this episode, you'll see various resources, free downloads, a free course, but also ways of working with me directly. So check those out if you're interested. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a wonderful feeling of pure resourcefulness. And as you exhale, just imagine a release valve on certain emotions that have been kept bubbling below the surface. Any anger, any stress, any tension, any sadness, just allow it to be released there on that outward breath. Breathing in that resourceful feeling of calm and relaxation, and exhaling, allowing what needs to be released. Breathing in what's necessary and useful, and exhaling anything that isn't. That's it. And the deeper you breathe, the more relaxed you feel. And the more relaxed you feel, the deeper you breathe. As your body relaxes, your imagination awakens. And I want you to imagine a wonderful, calm stream. And I want you to imagine that calm stream as a boat. And maybe you've heard that nursery rhyme about merrily rowing your boat down the stream, and just imagine you're climbing into that boat. And you are merrily, gently gliding down that stream. Imagine blue skies, and sunshine. And I want you to feel how comfortable, how pleasant, how relaxed you feel in that boat, on that stream. And just imagine it's like that for a while. Gentle, comfortable, easy, no conflict, no stress, no difficult decisions, just gently rowing that boat down the stream. But I want you to imagine that something changes. Just imagine the blue skies start getting cloudy, and the white clouds turn to dark clouds, and the gentle breeze turns into a gust of wind. And just imagine that gentle stream starts to find a gradient. That gentle stream starts turning into gentle rapids and then more rigorous rapids. And I want you to feel that while you are happy in those smooth conditions, there is something about this more challenging environment that brings out something powerful within you. That part within you that has gone through difficult things. Life hasn't been easy, but it has made you capable. They say it's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war. It's better to have the resources and the capabilities and not need them than to not have them and really need them. And as you imagine navigating those rapids while under rainstorms and winds and clouds, I want you to get the sense this is temporary. You have absolute belief that you can navigate this difficult terrain. You've done it before. You've done it again. You know you'll do it again, which is why it feels like it's already been done. You can anticipate the relief afterwards, knowing difficulties are manageable. And I want you to get a sense of what it would look like, perhaps in your business or your relationship, on the other side of these difficult rapids. Wouldn't it be the case that you would appreciate those calm waters on the stream and that sunshine all the more after having navigated the rapids? If it was just smooth sailing all the way, a part of you would feel bored. It would be easy, but it wouldn't challenge you. That part within that is capable, resilient, tenacious, decisive, that part welcomes the storm, embraces the rapids, likes the challenge. And I want you to imagine you're now back on those smooth waters. And I want you to think about how things change. That a good decision at one point in time can be a bad decision at a different point in time. Statisticians call it variable change. That as things change, the numbers change. You've seen that in property, in stocks, in different investments. What's an excellent decision in one set of circumstances is a horrible decision in another, even if the asset is identical. The The same is true with a relationship. The person can be the same person, but under certain conditions it can be the most desirable thing in the world. And in other conditions, something you wouldn't want even if it was offered. I want you to get a sense that some people feel trapped, controlled, coerced. But sometimes it's all based on a premise, and that premise used to be true but is no longer true. And I want you to wonder what would happen if you reevaluate something, you look at it with fresh eyes, by asking yourself the question, knowing what I now know, would I choose what I chose before, now? Would you create that trust fund? Would you make that proposal? Would you make certain decisions? One line of questioning leads to regret. Another leads to liberation. True courage is not being a prisoner to decisions of the past. True courage is being willing to reevaluate big decisions to make sure that the original thesis still stands true. You've done that in investing. You made a decision based on a fundamental idea. And if that idea changes, the decision behind it changes too. And I want you to go back in time now to the very early days of that relationship as an observer. I want you to observe the tonality in conversations. I want you to observe qualities perhaps like love, kindness, consideration, respect. Don't change the past, just see it as it was, as an observer. And I want you to imagine meeting that version of you when a decision was made to commit to that relationship. And just imagine meeting that version of you for a coffee or a drink or a meal. Maybe in Italian, just imagine they're that age, you're your age. And ask them, what is it about this person that is so desirable? What is it about this person, this relationship that makes you want to commit to it? No need to sway them or steer them, just listen. Listen to what was true then. And then ask them. Ask them before they're in that relationship. What would have to happen for them to change their mind? Not quitting, not bailing, just to reevaluate because actual things have changed. Give them scenarios that you know are possible in the future. Ask them in advance, if this was to happen, would it be okay? Because sometimes things change so slowly that what you wouldn't tolerate if it happened all at once is tolerated if it happens over a period of time. And there's a story that if you put a frog in cold water in a pan and slowly heat it, the frog doesn't notice the rising temperature until that frog boils alive. But interestingly, if the same frog was put already into a hot pan, it would immediately jump out. What would be intolerable if it happened immediately is tolerated if it happened just over a slower period of time. And what if this wasn't a trap, a prison? What if it was freedom? When you feel like you have nothing to lose, it gives you the power to choose. And I want you to think of something specific, almost the perfect test to evaluate if this thing that you have is still something you want. I want you to imagine a conversation that you instigate. Imagine seeing that version of you instigating that like you're seeing someone else. And I want you to see you confidently, articulately initiating that conversation. No upward inflection, asking for permission, calmly, confidently, bringing up a difficult conversation respectfully, politely, and yet firmly. And I want you to see there is a twinkle in that eye of yours. You are not daunted by this conversation because you know there is a way of thinking about this conversation that rather than feeling like a lose-lose, it's a win-win. That version of you knows that if something important to you is acknowledged, listened to, respected, it's a wonderful sign that things that you value in the relationship are still possible, which is a win. But it's also a win if your wishes, your needs, your thoughts, your feelings are disregarded. And as you observe, I want you to think, why would that be a win? Some people have heard of something called the beta paradox. The beta paradox is a paradox because it's counterintuitive. Just imagine someone working at a mildly unfulfilling job. They work at that job for years, and then suddenly, overnight, they get a toxic boss. Horrible, mean. They would have stayed at that job for years, but the moment it got worse, they feel galvanized to quit. And things get worse before it gets better. And a year later, they're grateful for that toxic boss. Or perhaps it's the distance between one place and another place that paradoxically, if it's just far enough that someone walks, they walk. But if it gets further, they drive and they get there quicker. Part of your mind knows that you can reevaluate whenever you choose, and that sometimes something being awful is the very gift you wanted or needed it to be. And I want you to see that version of you where it is genuinely a win-win. You don't care what the outcome is, because whatever the outcome is, it empowers you. And sometimes when someone feels confident and empowered, the person that's been bluffing all of this time realizes that their bluff has been called, and that very strong hand gets folded because it was never a strong hand, only the perception of one. So as you breathe in and breathe out, observing that confident, empowered version of you, taking back something that was never meant to have been lost. Whatever words come to mind, they're your words. You might think in terms of respect, identity, standards. Allow your mind to suggest qualities that were in abundance in your past and have been lost. And what if this is the very opportunity not to ask for them back, but to take them back? I want you to imagine returning to that little boat on the stream, imagining what it would be like 1 year from now. In two different circumstances, both of which are good. Either that relationship is exactly as you want it to be. It has those things that have been missing, that needed to be there for you to value it. Or the beta paradox was a gift. It got to a certain level where you just didn't want it anymore, and that gave you permission to find something that actually is desirable and works for you. The one thing you know you don't want is the status quo if the status quo is not desirable anymore. This is a future where you have escaped that sunk cost fallacy. You're free of it, one way or the other. The only way you lose is by secrecy, shame, or hesitancy. And as you hold that thought, it's time to return, taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. And wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes, connecting and calibrating into the here and the now, as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.